What's up, guys? Welcome to the Bring the Thunder podcast. Tonight didn't go as planned. Second night of a back-to-back against Denver. Great NBA scheduling there. Started off flat. I mean, Denver just played an outstanding game tonight. You can't really say much about it. Shot damn near 60% from the field. Seemed like in the second half they were hitting every three that they put up. Russell Westbrook had an amazing game tonight. He was all over on the defensive side. Offensively, he was great. And, yeah, OKC fell short. The big takeaway from this game is J-Dub's hip strain. He went down, got a hip strain, and at the end of the second quarter, didn't return for the game. So that's something to keep an eye on. But, yeah, Sapphire, take it away, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's pretty much fair. Like, you know, they had Aaron Gordon go out in their first game, and so they felt they could have won that one. And then in this one, we kind of had our all-star go out. And so, I mean, we lost this one. I feel like offensively, that's kind of where we lack to keep up. Their offensive pace just outpaced us. And I was mentioning this before we started this up. They just barely put the ball on the floor. They were kicking out to the corners. They were just shooting shots. And when teams start shooting and making shots against us, that's when we really have trouble. They just hit a lot of tough shots throughout the game and really just, they just shot the ball like crazy. Just like Texan just said. I mean, there's no better way to sum it up than, you know, they just shot the ball like crazy, man. We had a similar game against the Rockets in which we lost like this. We lost against the Timberwolves like this, where if the teams aren't turning over the ball and they're deciding not to go into the paint, they're going to get a lot of looks. And if that's the case and they knock them down, and a lot of these role players end up doing that, we either have to keep up the offensive pace, which we didn't, or we have to figure out, you know, a different defensive scheme. There should have been a adjustment made. Like, okay, they're not driving to the rack anymore. Third quarter, they went completely off, and they're still red hot going into the fourth. There should have been a fourth quarter adjustment when we're down by like 10 points. That like, hey, clearly the defensive scheme needs to change here. We saw the other coach make a defensive scheme change up against us where they had a consistent plan of Shea's just not going to score. We're just going to make him be a passer and everyone else beat us. And we tried to follow the same strategy against Jokić, and clearly it was not working. Jokić, I mean, ended up with 35. I'd prefer Jokić to score 50 than all the role players just start hitting shots, because that really increases the momentum of the game for the rest of the guys. So Texan said them boys were fouling like crazy. But I'm confident, OKC didn't have the best game, but they just played a better game than us, flat out, like better game plan and into the fourth quarter, better execution, and they just flatly outplayed us. We couldn't keep up with the offensive onslaught there. So
yeah, and listen, there's going to be games like this, but there's a few takeaways that I'd like to bring up. That I wasn't too happy with. First quarter, guys, I don't like to do this. The officiating it's not that it took the game over, but it just made us have a really slow start and allowed Denver to kind of stay in it. I mean, we were super hot in the first, second quarters. We were trying to pull away multiple times, and there were some calls that just would stop those runs. And you know, some nights the NBA is going to be like that. Another thing I'm going to bring up, Dub goes down at the end of the second quarter. So, yeah, that sucks. Hartenstein was going absolutely berserk on the offensive end tonight. He ended up with 20 points on 50%. Mark Daigneault decides to start Kaysen and J. Will to start the second half. After, when the second half begins, we got a lot of mismatches. Got Chet running around trying to guard Jamal Murray, who was already having a pretty decent night. Jamal's just knocking down a three. He's knocking down a pull-up J. He's getting to the rim. I don't know about you guys, but I was super confused about that move. Definitely didn't seem to be the right one. I know Hartenstein had a few fouls on him, but after yesterday's game, Mark literally said, like, I'm going to keep them out there if they have fouls or not. And then he completely just went away from what he said to multiple reporters. So that didn't make any sense to me. And then the last thing that I just wanted to point out was I think it was pretty clear that this was the second night of a back-to-back against a very good team. Because in the fourth quarter, it's not that they were really taking away Shea. I mean, they were trying their best. Shea was taking plays off on the offensive side. He wasn't looking to go get the ball like he normally does. He wasn't looking to go score every possession. He was kind of playing passive. So I think towards the mid of the second half, towards the end, I think we kind of just gave in. Didn't love seeing that, but listen, second night of a back-to-back against a great team. What are you going to do?
Yeah, man.
I'd like to answer this question by
I'll answer it after you.
Yeah. Texan said, but why wasn't SGA trying to be more aggressive and drive to the rack? Yeah, so as I was just bringing that up, listen, second night of a back-to-back against a really good team, especially with Dub going down, using more energy. And to be optimistic, I think he was trying to get other guys going. Like Lou was hot. Lou hit 8 threes tonight. I don't love that was our go-to to the end. But yeah, I don't really have a clear answer for that besides a second night of a back-to-back.
I have a clear answer. It's just too much passiveness. This is a trend with SGA in games like this where it's like an even game and your star is supposed to be like, take every shot and we're going to sink the ship with me. And SGA is just not that personality where he goes to do that. And against teams like the Nuggets, the Cavs, Celtics, he's got to be that guy. He can't shy away from – it's not he's shying away from the moment. He's just putting a lot of faith in the other guys. And that's fantastic to do. Like, I appreciate it. But when you don't have your other all-star, you have to seek the ball. You have to create rim pressure. One is not getting the ball, so he's the only one usually getting to the foul line anyways. And he's the main guy that can create the rim pressure to do kickouts. If we're relying on Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace to do the same type of rim pressure, it's just not going to work. And then the kickouts to who? Like, back to Shea for a three, like, no, that doesn't make sense. He should be the one kicking out to Cason Wallace, being the main focal point, having the ball in his hands. If they're going to double team, you got to make an adjustment. Start sending more picks, double picks, run plays for it specifically to keep the ball in his hands. It goes out of his hands. There's 11 seconds left. Back in his hands. I want the ball in his hands all the time. He's the point guard. He's the guy that's the engine. And we went away from him when the lead started dwindling more and more. And the rest of the guys took shots, and we're going to lose that way. Like, every team keeps it close, and then Shea in those moments doesn't have the rock for the next 10 possessions, we're losing games.
Yeah, and
period.
And throughout the season, I think he has had that Mamba mentality. Texan by Nature 88 on YouTube, but I don't know. It's just it's not a common occurrence in my opinion. But tonight it wasn't a great look. I'm really hoping it's just I'm banking on the back-to-back. Like I think SGA is that guy. I think he has a Mamba mentality. I think we're going to go to him down the stretch every single time because we have. Tonight, that wasn't the case, and tonight felt more like a playoff game, and I really am hoping not to see that in the playoffs. I mean, yeah. Other than that,
I want to go back to the Mamba mentality. I'm not saying Shea doesn't have the Mamba mentality or the mentality in general. He has it. It's just we need to put the ball in his hands, and he needs to recognize the ball needs to be in his hands. Like, right. It's not a fact of whether he has that, gene in him. We know he does. We know he can create and he can do whatever he wants. He's like top 2 running for MVP. It's just he's got to know the moment. He didn't recognize the moment in this one. I saw the game slipping away, and the ball was not going towards him. Like, he should be at the top of the key, forcing doubles, forcing triples. And then if you're passing it out in those circumstances, I'm cool with that. And then, you know what? They hold it for like the last 10 seconds, give it back to him, and he's the one taking every single shot down there. Like, I'm cool with that, right?
Right.
That was not what happened when the lead dwindled more and more and more and more. At some point, like, after a 10-point lead, if I'm a superstar, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm playing in any sport, like, and I see a lead dwindling, I'm going to take accountability and be like, okay, like, clearly no one else wants to seize this moment on the team, and I'm going to do so. Lou Dort did a fantastic job of doing that, but Shea should have been right there with him. Chet tried his best to do that as well in this game in the second half, where we kind of needed him, but not enough. Like, between the only three people that I wanted to see the rock in their hands was Shea, Chet, and Lou Dort when J-Dub's not there, and we didn't see enough of it. The other guards had the ball in their hands a little too much.
Yeah, and I kind of want to bring it back to that beginning of the second half, kind of getting Chet more involved in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they brought J. Will on the court, J. Will was guarding Jokić and Chet was guarding a guard. It was Braun and then it was Murray. Guys, I said this yesterday. Chet dominated Jokić in the first game of the season, absolutely dominated him. He put up 20-plus points on the offensive side of the ball. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Jokić had 16. Yeah, sure, he had 12 and 12, whatever. He had 16 points. Why are we going away from this? I mean, the guy dominated us yesterday, and he dominated again today. What are we seeing that is saying, you know what, Chet, you go guard a 6'5", 6'6" guard, even Murray, who's 6'3", 6'4". How does that benefit us? You're going to have Chet running around like an asshole, excuse my language, trying to guard these guards, and then at the same time you're taking away from the paint. And when he's in the paint, he's blocking every damn shot that is put up in the paint.
I'd rather him foul out, man. Like, I'd rather him foul out in the paint than him be out there running around. And it's not conserving his legs at all. Like, a guy like his size does not need to be chasing around perimeter players at all. Like, It's just an injury risk in itself. He twists his ankles all the time. Like, it could easily happen where he steps on a foot, boom. Like,
can't play like that.
If he's
can't play like that. And then again on the offensive side of the ball, I don't know how many threes Chet took tonight. They weren't falling, which was okay, but it was too many. He needs to be in the paint. He scores so much in the paint. Then I'm watching Hartenstein, who had a fantastic game, shoot corner threes. Drop it. It's enough. Enough's enough. Okay, I got to calm down a little bit. But
all right, I'm going to answer some questions on IG just to change up the vibe. We got an early comment here by Tonio. He mentioned J. Will's triple-double and, him being a legit rotational piece. What do you think about that come maybe playoff time or important games like this?
J. Will, rotational piece? Yeah, I mean, I love J. Will. I think we all do. I think it's all matchup based. It really is. It's especially with that OKC bench, it's kind of like who has the hot hand is going to get the minutes. I'm fine with any of them. I love the whole team. I love the depth of this team. Just about matchup.
Yep. Comment by Jaden. He mentioned that the Nuggets are 13-1 in back-to-back games. I don't know what could attribute to them having that type of record, because generally they're pretty bad against the top-level teams. So that's a pretty interesting stat that they're really good in back-to-backs, and that could bode really well for them in the playoffs.
Here's one thing I could say about that, and I'm not saying that this is 100% right, but I do think this makes a lot of sense. Denver plays at their own pace. Even if OKC put up 100 shots tonight, 100 field goal attempts, and yet Denver's still playing at their own pace. They're slow. They're methodical. They get what they want. They play through Jokić. So it's not about a bunch of up and down running with Denver. So, yeah, they're not going to waste as much energy as other teams. So I think in back-to-back games, I mean, tonight it clearly showed that it gives them the advantage. And shout out to them because they play their style no matter who they're playing against, win or loss.
Yeah, I just thought they had some minor tweaks in this game overall, from just like a lineup perspective. Like they definitely did homework the night before and went to the drawing board and said, okay, where are some places where we can expose some weaknesses within OKC? And then where are some strengths that we can kind of highlight within the team? And they pretty much followed whatever their game plan was to a T. And it showed that they were kind of all bought in. The confidence grew more and more as the game plan worked
You know why?
in their favor. So
you know why the confidence was growing more and more and more, especially with the role players. I know this is an OKC Thunder podcast. Huge shout out to Russell Westbrook tonight. 16, 5, and 7. You see the guys the role players that are around him. I mean, everyone just gets 100 times more confident, and that ends up them playing better. Peyton Watson, 16 points tonight. Pickett, 8 huge second half points tonight. Not to mention, the stars that Westbrook plays with have their best seasons every time. Paul George came into OKC, best season of his career. Jokić, this probably could be his best season of his career. I could go on, but yeah, I mean, yeah, they made great adjustments throughout the game tonight, especially after yesterday. And we made no adjustments. We actually changed our game plan even after something worked great yesterday. So I don't really know what the problem was tonight with Mark and the game plan. I feel like it was just like everybody was out there. He was just trying everything, and it just wasn't really working, especially when Isaiah Joe's going 1 for 5 from the field and turned the ball over and, not having a great night. I don't know. I think if you keep the same exact formula from yesterday, we kill him again. But, I mean, J-Dub went out, so it's not that easy. But, yeah.
I still think fully healthy in a 7-game series will definitely take it. But in case of injuries like this, either way, it's going to be detrimental to both teams because I think just how their team gels in general. Like Aaron Gordon is crucial to their team. Pretty much any starters on both sides. So that kind of showed in this. But hopefully, come playoffs, like everyone's healthy and we can kind of see who the better team is in a full series. And I think it'll be a very, very close one. It'll definitely, in my opinion, go 7 games and come down to that 7th game at home in Oklahoma. And that's where Shai's got to step up big when it comes to the playoffs whenever we face these guys. I'm going to point out some stats for us here. We're 53-12 now. They snapped our 7-game win streak. We still have an 11-game lead over them, which is ridiculous to me. The series is tied 2-2. J-Dub injuries kind of big in this one. In the second half, they shot 12 for 17. I mean, absolutely ridiculous shot making by all their role players pretty much. And it definitely showed. I mean, 6 for 6 in the fourth quarter. Yeah. I mean, Watson went 4 for 4. Westbrook went 3 for 5. Pickett went 2 for 3. I mean, between Westbrook and Pickett and even Watson, these guys are not really known 3-point shooters like that. So Watson was lights out like crazy in that corner. He was really feeling it. So, I mean, that's just kind of how the game went, man. Their role players showed up, and that's kind of how these games are won by the top-end talent nowadays. It's nothing like, I guess, back in the day when you had, super teams where you have 2 or 3 guys. It's just a host. You have to have everyone kind of show up to the party. And if one team has their role players rocking and rolling, they're going to probably end up winning. And that's where I wish the adjustment had came is like, all right, Jokić is getting anything in the paint anyways. Keep letting him take his 2s and let's just guard the 3-point line at some point because I mean, what else are you going to do? You can't just leave these guys to continue torturing us. So.
Yeah, and just real quick, I'm going to add that that's what we saw in the playoffs last year. We let guys torch us from the 3. And if Russell Westbrook, which I feel like the OKC organization should, if he hits a three from a certain spot, you can't let him shoot three more from that same spot, because when he gets hot, he's going to knock him down. I don't care how bad he's been shooting recently. He's going to knock him down when he's feeling it, especially in OKC. I mean, this guy just spent three days in Oklahoma City. You don't think he's having a great time? Like, anyway, back to Oklahoma City. Next game coming up is in Boston on Wednesday. I want to hope that J-Dub will be there. I'm not so sure that he will be. But listen, we beat them the first time. I don't see why we can't beat them again. It's going to be a real statement game, especially on a Wednesday night primetime game. Hoping that everyone's healthy and ready to roll after this dud of a game tonight.
Yeah, man. I wanted to point one other thing out is the Nuggets adjustment was they really put Jokić in the spots that they wanted him to be. Hence, you mentioning they kind of slowed it down. Whereas we didn't establish the second half pacing. We didn't slow down. We still try to push the pace, and we didn't really set up any offense.
Right.
That was another thing that was triggering why Shea didn't have the ball in his hands, because you need to put Shea in the actions, and that doesn't mean he's further away from the basket. He actually needs to get, in post-up positions or top of the key where he can really operate the best. And even if that's him being the screen guy, like, we just have to get creative in those moments where it's like, all right, this is turned into a half-court game. This is no longer a run and gun like it was for the first two quarters.
Right.
And we did not adjust at all. Like, we kept trying to run it and run it and run it, and we missed shots, and then they kept making shots. And that's how you lose games, when you don't adjust the pace of the play. Like,
exactly right there. And that's why I've said this multiple times on this show, and I think I get a lot of heat for it. But if coach isn't going to make the right adjustments come playoff time, guys, we're going to be in for a rude awakening. And listen, I think this team is the most talented team in the league. I think they play extremely well together. Their chemistry is through the roof. They have all the right pieces. They have championship pieces. They have an MVP player. It's just going to come down to making adjustments throughout the series and not getting beat like we did tonight. Mike Malone outcoached Mark Dagnall tonight, and listen, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that at that.
Yeah, I don't really have any other thoughts. There's no really other stats that stick out. I mean, they just beat us, man. I mean, and plain and simple.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we will be back on Wednesday for a real exciting game in Boston. Hopefully all healthy. And let's go get that dub. But other than that, I will let you guys off with a thunder up, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.